All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Matt Diaz, and I am the SACE Collegiate Program Coordinator, and I'm going to be your host here this afternoon. And we're really excited to have you here, as I mentioned. And we're extremely grateful to have you to be able to take some time out of your busy day to share with us here today, whether it's even live or even on the recording. And so, again, thank you for joining us. And so, for those of you who are joining us here the very first time, I'd just like to take a quick minute and give you a little introduction about who we are as an organization of SACE before I bring on our guest speaker here today. And so, as I mentioned, this is part of our webinar series where we are here to help grow and develop our members and our viewers, both professionally as well as personally. And so, to be a little bit more specific, our SACE vision and mission, our vision is to be the go-to organization for talent and leadership development within STEM. And our mission is to prepare Asian heritage scientists, engineers, and technologists for success in the global business world, to celebrate diversity on campuses as well as in the workplace, and to provide our members with opportunities to contribute to their local communities. And we're really excited because right now SACE is growing. We've established collegiate chapters on over 100 campuses nationwide, and we currently have 6 professional chapters as well. Again, growing as well. And also at this moment, I'd like to just take a quick moment. If you didn't join our previous webinar, I'd like to share it here today. But SACE is proud to stand with our brothers and sisters in the brown and black communities as we are going through these troubled times. And we want to applaud each and every one of you who have been having conversations within your communities and your networks about as far as what we can do to continue to move forward collectively. And so we would like to invite you to view our statement that is available on our website, as well as social media, and feel free to engage with us as well too online and social media. And so with that being said, let me take a look here. A couple housekeeping notes. As I mentioned previously, this call is going to be recorded and shared on YouTube. So if you don't want your beautiful face captured on YouTube, go ahead and turn your camera off. But if you don't mind, go ahead and leave it on. It's always great to see your faces as well too. In addition, this content is going to take about 45 minutes, and that's going to be followed by Q&A. So in the meantime, if you have any questions, feel free to put those in the chat function, and we'll make sure to have those ready when it comes time. And there's going to be a couple polls throughout today's presentation, so be on the lookout for that as well. And so last thing, grab a pen, grab some paper, and get ready to take some notes, so that way you can take all this great information away from you. And so, or take it away with you, I should say. So with that being said, really excited to have today's guest speaker. He's been a friend of SACE since SACE first started, back in 2007. So we're really grateful to have him here today. I've got the honor to get to know him a little bit better over the last couple of weeks as we've been preparing for this webinar. And he's got a huge heart. He loves helping people. And, in his bio, his extended bio, it mentioned that he, on an annual basis, performs around 100 presentations yearly on training and development. So he's extremely knowledgeable in this area. So we're really grateful to have him. And as I mentioned, we're really looking forward to help each and every one of you grow as well too. And so with that, we're going to have a lot of fun today. And so without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we're excited to have Fabian De Rozario join us here today. So Fabian, I will turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you very much, Matt. Good afternoon, everybody. And thank you so very much for joining me on this session. As Matt indicated, I'm going to move pretty quickly through some content that I prepared for you on this particular topic. And I want to make sure we preserve at least 15 minutes for questions that you have. And so let me dive right in. First and foremost, let me make sure that I'm coming across clearly. Matt, my voice is okay?
Yes, it is. Sound great.
Very good. Okay. A bit of context, a little bit about me. I am originally from the country of Malaysia, from the city area, Kuala Lumpur. I am married to Jesslina. She and I both reside in Atlanta. This is where I'm calling you from. This is a picture of our travel. We love to travel, so being quarantined at home is no fun for us. So as I mentioned, from Malaysia, and I spent a couple of years finishing my secondary school in Fettes College, Edinburgh. And if you look at this building, this is where my my little dorm room was on the 6th floor, if it reminds you of Harry Potter's Hogwarts Castle, that's where J.K. Rowling got her inspiration from in creating Hogwarts Castle. Anyways, what brought me to the United States a little over 30 years ago was, like many that you know, being an international student, came and started my university work at Southern Illinois University. I did all my 3 degrees there, and 6 years later, I got my first job out of college in sport club management and fitness programs at Northern Illinois University. And then I got my a wonderful break working at the University of Arkansas at Little Rock as the director of a student center that they were building. And so this was in the mid-90s, and I spent about 5 years there. And 22 years ago was when my wife and I moved to Atlanta, and the reason for that was a job opportunity, my 3rd job out of college, and this was with the Golden Key International Honor Society, and I was in charge of relationships and also the development of chapters for the U.S. market, U.S., Puerto Rico, and Virgin Islands, about 300 universities. And what keeps me busy also is my volunteer work. Ever since I moved to Atlanta, I started getting involved with the National Association of Asian American Professionals, and I'm very, very proud to say that NAP as well as SASE has a wonderful relationship together, and we build on each other's strengths. And now, today, what I do is what I'm doing with you, training and development. And these are some of the companies that I've had a chance to work with over the course of 15 years. Yes, it was about it was 2006 that I left Golden Key. I left full-time employment, worked for myself, started my own LLC along with my wife, and a very simple business model. And to date, maybe about 183 organizations that I've had an opportunity to work with, and some more intimately than others. So let's get to the subject today, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm very glad that you've chosen to join this webinar, because one thing is certain. While we are completely reliant on digital platforms for us to communicate with each other, I think all of us realize that even when we go back to the workplace, when the buildings open back up, the offices and workplaces open back up, it is definite that for more times than ever before, we will be working from home, working from a distance, and working virtually. In fact, there are plenty of articles about this topic today. In fact, even before COVID-19, there are articles about how to have a strong, positive, credible presence online. In fact, when you Google it, a lot of articles that you can see. And somebody at SASE even sent me this link of an article that was posted yesterday in the New York Times about the Zoom shirt. And yes, this is my Zoom shirt. And I've got another one hanging in the back of the chair here, just in case I realize that you're in a meeting that I had with you yesterday, and I was wearing the same shirt. I can quickly switch out to a different shirt, right? So we all have our Zoom shirts. All right. So before I dive into the strategies, because that's what I promised you, right? A lot of actionable strategies, techniques, tactics, considerations that you need to know about when you're appearing online. But before I talk about that, I want you to think about the power of a brand. And on the slide here, you have all these very recognizable global brands, multi-billion-dollar brands. And imagine the amount of investment, the amount of seriousness, the amount of commitment that these organizations do and have in preserving these brands. It's huge, right? Why? Because the brand image is so valuable to the organization. Now, you know where I'm going with this, right? Because I need you to consider yourself a brand. You are your own brand. And so everything that we're talking about today, this subject of your virtual presence, is all about not only maintaining, but I invite you to continue to always enhance your brand. Now, speaking of brand, I submit to you that at every moment that somebody gets to notice you, before COVID-19, it was when you are at your office, when you're walking down an aisle, when you're having a meeting, and of course, all these conference calls that are now on video platforms. Every moment that somebody is looking at you, watching you, noticing you, even in the peripheral, they are taking a snapshot of you, unbeknownst to them sometimes as well. The way you sit, your posture, when you have something to say, when you don't say anything, every moment, people are taking a memory snapshot of you. And over the course of time, it forms a collage of photos to the point that it begins to form this overall image that in a nanosecond, somebody will remember you by. And so as I invite you to consider yourself and take it seriously, that you need to manage yourself like you're managing your own brand, realize that every moment somebody has a mental image of you, and the collection of all these mental images and memories of you becomes your overall brand. I hope that you're convinced that you need to be intentional about managing your brand. And so over to the subject of virtual presence. Now, the two areas of virtual presence that I'm going to cover with you are digital profile and digital appearance. I'm going to spend very little time on digital profile and much more time on digital appearance, as you may have expected. But I also do not want to forget to highlight the fact that virtual presence, by my definition, means exposure to you that is not face-to-face in person. So it could be email. How are you conducting yourself through email? How do you type your emails? How about a phone call? Just voice alone, how do you come across in a conference call, a one-on-one? The black icon here is your company intranet, where you're sending internal messages through whatever platform that you have. And of course, when you're texting each other, sharing photos, when you're texting, all of these are opportunities for you to brand yourself virtually. But I'm going to spend I'm only going to focus on these two areas. And first, digital profile. All right, digital profile. Here's some things to think about. And if you have a phone, you can take a picture of this slide if it's easier for you to remember the things that I'm talking about. Of course, we're going to have a recording on this, so you can always view it at another time. Now, have you ever Googled yourself? Have you ever Googled yourself? If you've had a few years of interacting digitally, there's definitely a digital imprint and memory out there in the internet space. So I invite you to Google yourself, just to give you some information of how you're coming across. It gives you great feedback so that you can be more intentional about what else you're going to put out there digitally. Now, when you use any of these apps, Facebook, LinkedIn, I hope you're on LinkedIn, at least for a professional level, but however that you put yourself out there, the photo that you put in your profile, make sure that whatever profile you put up there, especially the professional ones like LinkedIn and frankly even Facebook, I make sure that that I present myself professionally in my Facebook profile, even though I limit my Facebook profile only to my friends. I don't offer that publicly unless I'm posting a video or something that I want the public to consume. Make sure that whatever profile you establish, be thorough about it, especially the professional ones, all right? So be thorough about that profile. List claims that are credible, that are clear, that are specific, that are succinct. and with measured results, especially when it's a professional profile. You want to make sure that you have your attention to detail, just like how you would have attention to detail in your professional resume. Let me give you an example here, and I'm going to pick on a SASE employee, and this is my friend Parag, who I actually met through NAP in Cincinnati, and I looked up his profile and I was impressed by it. And here are a couple of examples of what I mean by being succinct and being measured in terms of the value that you have provided in whatever professional experience that you want to list. And you will see here that he uses some numbers. Improve produce to order to nearly 100%, reduce inventory by over 50%. There's another piece down here where he delivered savings. That was the impact of his capabilities, of his technical capabilities. And so just as you would want to provide this level of detail and high level impact in your resume, you absolutely want to do that in your LinkedIn profile as well. All right, over to a few more points because I want to make sure that we've got plenty of time with the digital appearance piece. All right. The fourth item: skills and achievements are more important than the span of network. So maybe you have had multiple jobs. Hey, if you want to, list them all. But what is more important is the quality of what you list. And so pay good attention to the work experiences and the accomplishments that matter, and not so much how many jobs you've been in. Update your profile. Do not have a stale profile. People can tell that, because if you have listed something a job that you had left 2 years ago, people can tell from your profile. And especially when they meet you and they find out that, oh, you haven't updated your profile, bam, that's a snapshot of you, right? And it may not be a deal breaker, but people will pick up on these cues. And unfortunately, people sometimes will extrapolate these cues. And so you have to ask yourself, do you want them to extrapolate for the better, or do you want them to extrapolate for the worse? All right, next thing, reinforce credibility with timely response. So if anybody contacts you through any of these digital apps, make sure that you are as responsive as you would like to be with how you respond to your work emails. All right. And of course, just watch what you post, even in the social stuff. All right. What you send by text, the images you upload on Facebook, Snapchat, whatever it is, even if it is personal apps, personal accounts that you have, ladies and gentlemen, I have seen way too many examples of people. They create goofy email addresses that they end up using. They post comments that are inflammatory or use language that is inappropriate, or their cat angered them, and so they post some profanities about their cat, whatever it is. It will come out, since we're talking about cats, it will come out and bite you. All right? Especially when it's put out there digitally. The digital universe has a long memory. Remember that. All right? And finally, just be positive. Be positive, be courteous, be respectful, be the brand that you want to be for the rest of your life, because this stuff will live for longer than you, right? And so be very, very thoughtful about your digital profile. All right? Now, here's my ask of you, because this is all I'm going to cover for this particular topic. I invite you to set some time aside to update and clean up your digital profile, and start at the very top. Google yourself. Find out where are you being represented digitally. All right? Now, over to the big topic at hand. I'm sure that's what you were expecting, and that is how am I going to show up digitally? All right? And there are many, many platforms that we're all using in the work that I do, because I do webinars for a variety of different clients, I have used Teams, I've used Zoom, I've used WebEx, don't like it. I've used GoToMeetings, GoToWebinars actually, because they're typically webinars. And then what's not on here is I've got one client that actually uses the Google Suite. So we do use Google Meets for our meetings as well. And then of course, sometimes we use Messenger, right? Messenger has a video function, and there have been a couple of times where I've spoken with clients because it was just so easy to do that on Messenger. All right, many different platforms. Now, here's the question on your screen. Would people care to listen to you? All right, so it's all about your presence. The topic today is presence. So the question I ask is, are people going to listen to you? Okay, would they even care? All right, now what do I mean by care? This is what I mean by care. All right, first is about competency. Do people know? Do you know what you're talking about? And they're going to ask themselves, "Well, I benefit from listening to you." So your competence is going to have to come across this digital platform. Appreciative. Now, appreciation for somebody is around some sort of a connection, whether there is something that about you that they already like. Maybe you're from Malaysia and you found out I'm from Malaysia, and so all of a sudden you're more attentive because you want to hear what this Malaysian guy is talking about. Or you connect with each other because you've had a chance to work with each other and you already have some sort of a relationship. And so there are elements of this relationship orientation that creates that sense of, I like this person anyway, so I'm going to pay attention. All right, so there's the appreciate piece. Now, there's also going to be the reliability piece. And that is, can I rely on the value of what you have to say? Are you consistent? Are you honest? Do you come across as trustworthy? Are you reliable? Because if people have a sense that you're reliable, if they feel that you're reliable, they're going to want to pay attention to you even more. And finally, of course, engaging. All right. Now, I am trying to be a little bit more animated with you now than I typically would if I was having a face-to-face conference or even a meeting with a client, one-on-one on Zoom or on WebEx or something like that. I'm not going to be waving my hands as much unless there was something particular that I wanted to emphasize. But are you interesting? Because it is important that you don't come across as boring. Because when you speak, I want to be able to enjoy the energy that you exude, and that's what I mean by engaging. So when I say, do people even care to pay attention to you? This is what I mean. Do they sense that you're competent? Do they appreciate you or are drawn to you in some particular personal way? Are you considered reliable? And do they even think that you're interesting and engaging? Now, caution. Here's my caution signs. No amount of presence will make up for any deficiencies that you may have in any of these, right? Because your charisma will only go so far until the point that people discover that either you're not competent, that you're not likable, or that you're not reliable. They are pretty much going to sum up that, you know what, really don't care for this person. I'll put up a facade because I got to put up with them, but if I had an option, I'll avoid them. All right. Now, of course, the session today is about presence. So I'm going to focus on how you show up, because there is also the possibility that you are very competent, that you are a very likable person, very approachable, highly reliable, very trustworthy, and that you are actually also quite engaging and interesting, all four of these. But if you don't present that, if you don't show up in that manner in your calls, in your video calls, then guess what? Perception becomes the reality. So you need to be very cognizant of that. All right? All right, let's dive into some details. And Roland, we're going to be doing a poll here in just a moment. Let me tell the folks about how this poll is going to work. All right. So get ready when Roland's going to issue the poll out to your screen. Now, what's going to happen is I am going to show you some Zoom faces. All right. I'm going to show you something that I just Googled. So I don't know who these people are. I blanked out their names, but I'm going to use their faces. All right. You're going to see 25 frames, but we're only going to focus on 10 of them. And I want you to answer this question. This question is on the poll that's coming right up. Who would you care to pay most attention to? And what do I mean by care? You sense that they're competent. You sense that they're likable. You appreciate them in some way. That you kind of sense that they're reliable and that they appear to be engaging. All right. Now you are to select only one frame, one person on the Zoom picture. And because there are 25 pictures, I selected only 10 for you to choose from. 25 would be way too hairy. All right. So select only one frame among the ones that have a green box. So here they are. Take a look. I'll give you about 20 seconds for one selection of the person that you would care most to pay attention to. Make one selection. And in about 10 seconds, Roland is going to then post the poll for you to put your one answer. All right, have you made your selection? 3, 2, 1, and Roland, go ahead and ask folks who they select as the one they're going to pay most attention to. Go ahead and make your selection and submit your answer. All right, let's see what the results are. Is it 6? Oh, so we got 16. Number 16. Number 16. Okay. All right. Well, let me ask you why. Go into your chat box, and I'm going to go open my chat box because I want to see what you're showing as well. So in your chat box, go ahead and give me the reasons why the majority of you, there are more votes for number 16. So tell me, what is it? Let's just focus on 16 right now. All right. Everybody, even if you didn't vote for 16, knowing now that 16 got the biggest number of votes, why do you think 16 appears to be the person that you would care for the most competent, the most that you might appreciate, the most reliable, the most engaging? You can see the person clearly. You can see the person's full face, good lighting. They're looking straight at the camera. They're not distracted. He seems to have experience. Could that be an age thing? It could be. It could be. Maybe it's the books in the back. Maybe it's the books in the back, right? Nice appearing background, good lighting. His age perhaps might suggest a knowledge. Seems focused. What makes you think the person? What is it about the person's look that makes you think that person is very focused? Books equal smart. Hey, you like my background? They're not real books. They're just facades. No, they're actually real books. But I did do that purposely. Okay. All right. Leaning, sitting forward. Good stuff. You know this, right? And see, that's the fascinating thing about presence. We oftentimes are very good at assessing presence because we have plenty of experiences, right? We've seen so many variety of people show up, whether it's in person or in these Zoom faces. We have been fed so many images and we've been fed so many messages of what looks like leader, what looks like a sharp person, what appears to be someone who's professional. We've been fed all these messages. Somehow or another, we are able to assess. But here's the funny thing, which is, I'm sure, one reason why you're so intentional about joining the session and also and listening to this recording, because you know it's one thing to be able to be a good judge of character, but all of us are on this personal journey for us to improve ourselves. And because we want to have that kind of impact, and sometimes we just don't realize how we're showing up. And so I hope that this session in the 45 minutes, you're going to feel so motivated to do something about it. Now, I have another question, all right? And I'm going to show you the same pictures. It will be the same green boxes that we're considering, only the 10. So Roland, in just a few seconds, I'm going to have you put a poll up, but I want you to take a look at these pictures again and choose the one that you would vote as the least that you want to pay attention to, the least that you care about, the least competent, least appreciative, least reliable, least engaging. Have you chosen your one? Because Roland, go ahead and put that poll up. Go ahead and put the number in and vote for the one that you would care for the least. And let's see what the results are. Number 10, number 10. Okay, would you go to your chat and tell me why number 10 would have the greatest number of votes? Go ahead and put on the chat real quick. I won't spend too much time on there, but what is the impression that number 10 is giving to you? The background is disturbing. Although liquid death, I didn't know about liquid death until I was in Whole Foods 2 days ago, and apparently it's just a sparkling water. Why would you call it spark? I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to drink liquid death. Number 22 probably because number 22 looks just completely bored, right? All right. So thank you for engaging. I love the polls. I'd love to read some more of your chats, but let me go to the content. Let me just drive through these for the next 13 minutes, and then we'll open it up for Q&As. I think our Q&As will be just as interesting because we'll be answering what's top of mind for you, right? Maybe some of the things I'm going to share with you, you might even have a different opinion about it. And so I'm about to give you my unfeathered opinion, which is somewhat influenced by certainly my work experience, but also things that I've read, YouTube that I've watched. But I also have very strong opinions on certain things, so I'm just going to lay it out there for you, all right? And these are the 4 subjects. These are the 4 slides. I only have 4 slides, so once I'm done with each slide, you can take a photo of it, all right? So these are only the 4 areas I'm going to comment on. So the first thing is internet bandwidth. Now, you probably realize that already, and you've already been on calls where some people, their video couldn't pop up, and you know why. Pay the extra $20 and soup up your internet bandwidth. And with internet, you always got to make sure that you've got a high upload speed and also a good download speed. And I bought the Xfinity, the 200 megabytes per second, and make sure you got a good upload speed as well. All right, because usually most households have about 30 megabyte per second of download and at least 7 megabytes per second of upload. That's really important because when you're projecting video, you need that upload speed. And one other thing too is internet bandwidth oftentimes is being shared in the house because multiple people are using it for work, husband and wife, 2 partners in a house, and the kids, they're all using the bandwidth. And so making sure you have the internet bandwidth is absolutely critical. If you haven't set up a proper yourself to have a proper desk, you really need one, right? That dining table or that island in the kitchen is just not going to cut it. And so make sure you have a proper desk. I know of many people now who have even purchased the little elevated edition so they can stand. In fact, when Matt was emceeing the event today, he was actually standing up because he projects himself much more confidently. He feels good, and he shows up very nicely on the video when he's standing up. Laptop and backup laptop. So let me tell you what I mean about that. Make sure you have a good laptop. I think people change their phones more often than their laptops, when it probably should be the other way around. And phones these days, they cost anywhere from $500 to $1,200, right? And so that's what the cost of a good laptop is anyways. Go to Costco and get yourself a decent laptop and keep up with the times, because when you're working virtually, you are highly reliant on good hardware even before you even come on screen and talk. So be very attentive. Make that investment. Make that investment. Now, I talk about a backup laptop because right now, well, I'll tell you more about it because I've got some pictures to show you, all right? In fact, I'm going to give you, this is a picture of my office, all right? We have dedicated, my wife and I, my wife also works from home, so we both share a common office area, and then we have also another office in the basement when she and I have to split up because both of us have conference calls. Now, let me give you a closer look at a few things here that I want to particularly highlight. You need to have an extra monitor, All right, you need to have an extra monitor. For those of you that do not have an extra monitor, it doesn't cost you that much, 120 bucks, $200, and you need a great monitor. And having that extra real estate is extremely helpful, not only for your daily work, but definitely for calls as well. Because right now I've got 3 monitors that I'm using. I'm talking with you directly on the camera of the laptop. I am not using a special camera. I decided not to buy an extra camera because my laptop is fairly new. It's about 1.5 years old. The camera is good. And then I've got my TV screen. So usually I'm playing the news, but now I'm using the TV screen to watch chat, so I can actually see the list of participants and chat on the screen above me. And then the presentation is showing up on my main monitor, so you can see where my keyboard is. I actually use the big screen monitor as my main monitor when I'm doing my work, and then I can slide stuff over to the side to the laptop number 2 there, laptop number 2 there, so that I can reference any material. All right. Look at number 4. This is my retired laptop, and I have it running right now, and I signed in as a participant on this call. So at any moment in time, if I want to know what I'm projecting on my webinar, I can see it. I don't have to launch my webinar and then ask my participants, do you see my screen? Do you see my PowerPoint? No, I have that information real time. Let's see, number 5 there. Oh, notice that I elevated my laptop. I'm going to come to that in just a moment. Number 6, I decided to get a professional microphone because it does perform a little bit better. Number 7, I have a nice stand for my phone because I find that sometimes, while I'm in session, I may have to check on something on the phone. Maybe I have to Google something that I'm being asked about. So having a nice phone holder is very helpful. And then number 8 is a $27 combination of a light that I use as a table lamp, but right now I have it shining in my face so that I'm well illuminated for this call. And then you notice that there is a phone holder at the bottom there. So sometimes if I'm using, say, Google Meets through my phone, then I'll set it up in this gooseneck phone holder combination with a light. Okay. All right. Let's see what else we got here. We've talked about the video camera, speakers, earbuds, and headphones. So have good speakers. You can have external speakers. They probably work just fine. In fact, I would recommend external speakers because laptop speakers are usually not very good. And I find that my external speakers, I can hear better. Earbuds and headphones. So for webinars or for just video conferencing, video meeting with somebody, I don't prefer the headphones. So if you're in a private space where there is no ambient noise, my recommendation is just talk without headphones. In fact, I offer you these pictures for you to just judge for yourself who just looks more professional, because my position is that we are now on these video calls so much that we pretty much want to replicate what it would be like if we were talking face to face. All right. I mentioned the microphone. I talked about having a phone as a backup, talking about stands and phone holders and lights. All right, that's about hardware. That's a lot of information in a short amount of time. I'm going to move just as fast. How about the setting? Make sure you have a dedicated space. All right, a place where you can have privacy, or at least making sure that you're not operating out of your bedroom. I was on a call just before this call, and the call was happening with her bed in the background, and the bed was unmade. Well, what kind of impression is that going to deliver, right? So free of distractions. And some people have told me that they have had conversations with their kids that, hey, when I close the door to the basement, or I close the door to the living room that I have sectioned off as my office, and I put a sign there, and here's the sign that says in the meeting, it's like I am a radio host at that time. Do not disturb. I'm on air. All right. So have that mutual understanding that you are in a meeting, and have that conversation also with your spouse. My wife and I were always comparing schedules in case we got to split up. So be very communicative. Okay. Because your home is now your office. Now, in terms of positioning of this is a big thing. And all professionals that you will see on YouTube, like this lady right over here, they will always tell you to position the camera of that video at eye level. Do not be conducting your meetings and your conversations on a video call with people looking up your nose and at your chin, all right? So you probably noticed that when you saw the picture of my office area, I propped up my laptop so that it's eye level. And frankly, because I am using my laptop as a second screen, I actually want it at eye level so that every time I'm moving over to look at a reference that I parked over to my laptop screen while I'm working on my main screen, my laptop is elevated exactly like how I like it. And in terms of distance, in terms of framing, I'd like your presence, your body, to fill up approximately 40% of the frame. Not too close. Don't be continuing your conversation with somebody like this. And you also don't want to be so far where people cannot tell your facial expressions, because that's the beauty of these video calls, is that people can read your meeting from your facial expressions as well. More on that in just a moment. And once again, background, background, background. Just be very attentive of what's behind you. You have heard of all sorts of videos and funny occurrences of things that were completely unintended that passed in the background of somebody being in the meeting, whether it's a half-naked person that ran across or some sort of an interruption that you just did not feel is part of how you want to be branded. And so be very attentive about what your background is. Don't make it an uninteresting background as well. I've had people park in front of a blank wall as if they're in some studio with a green backing. And that's boring. Think about what that communicates, right? So be very attentive about your background. And of course, the lighting is very important. And one thing about the virtual backgrounds, I don't like it. And you can see the reason why. All right? That's enough said about that. I've got to move on. Now, self. Here are some things that you know. I just want to remind you, but you can take a picture of this slide if you want to. Attitude and impact, all right? Your attitude, and it better be a positive one, and you need to come across positive. And you also want to make sure that you always are attentive in terms of how you're landing. The word is presence. So really be aware of how you are coming across. You can see yourself in the video. In fact, when I was talking about setting, I forgot to mention that you can find the best setting of a background by using the selfie mode of your phone and finding the best place around your house where it looks good in the background and that you're not up against a window. I didn't mention this, but make sure that you do not have a bright light, like a bright window behind you, because that darkens your overall image. Now, you can still have that back window if you want, if it's a beautiful outside. Just make sure that you've got good lighting in front of you. Okay, back to self here, back to self. Now, the second item here, it's about coming across professional. That's what this whole program's all about, right? Coming across professional. Be very cautious about your RSF. What do I mean by that? Your resting scowl face, all right? Come across pleasant. Even when you are not talking, people are watching you. And so you can always just put on just a slightly nicer demeanor. Even Winston Churchill, that has a scowl face, can look decent. And all it takes is just a few facial muscles, all right? Watch your personal grooming and makeup. Make sure that you dress appropriately, that you don't look unkempt. I remember being on a client call one time, believe it or not. And there was it's a group that I'm mentoring, and one person didn't call, and so they text this person, and this person answered the call, or this person called in, and this person was still in bed, and it was like 11 o'clock. Why would this person even turn their video on? So just once again, just be cognizant about how you're coming across, all right? And the memory has stuck with me. Now, personal grooming and attire and makeup, it has been recommended that sometimes you can just put a little bit of enhancement for you to be able to show up accessorized in a very light manner. Just come across like a professional, all right? Be thoughtful about those things that in 10 minutes can completely transform you into the brand that you want to present yourself. And of course, posture. And we saw that in the poll that we did earlier on, right? And join the meeting a couple of minutes early, not only to make sure that you don't have any technology problems, but so that you are always branded as the person that's always there, always on time, all right? Now, so, lots of videos out there. This is another lady that also talks about how to have good appearances on video. So final topic. We're running out of time here. Communication, how you talk, how you come across. So this is communication 101, which is a whole webinar, a whole half-day course by itself. First item right here, be heard and know when to weave into the conversation. This is going to be really tough because when you're on calls like this, it is very hard sometimes to try to interject. And you don't want to necessarily be reliant on raising the hand. You know, that just doesn't work. And so it's just like navigating Beijing traffic or well, then these days, New York traffic is kind of like dead. But just think about how you are so attentive, looking for that gap to go, oh, I've got a bill. Let me say something. Well, you want to, there's so many techniques to do that. We don't have time to cover that, but just be very attentive so that you can weave into the conversation so that you are not left behind, all right? Be confident, obviously, show your energy. Always make sure that you're adding value to the conversation because if people don't hear from you, you may be forgettable, all right? Be personable, being courteous, showing respect. That's always a plus in terms of building your brand. If you're in charge, obviously you want to be prepared. So if you're in charge of the meeting, you're the one hosting the meeting, then think of all the things that would come across as professional. Setting out an agenda, being clear in your communication, making sure that all the hardware and the settings that we talked about earlier on bring you in the best possible light. And then my final point is about how you talk. And earlier on, I had already referenced this in terms of how you show your energy level and just how you show yourself. And you have seen a pie chart like this before, right? Do you remember what these numbers mean? This is essentially based on research of how meaning is communicated across. Only 7% of the meaning that is transferred in when you communicate comes from the actual spoken word. Tone of voice accounts for 30% of what you will end up interpreting and believing. And 55% will be in facial expressions. So if I'm not on camera and I say to you, hey, welcome to the session. We are going to have a lot of things that we're going to cover. And oh my gosh, how boring was that, right? How boring. I'm using all the right words, but clearly what you're going to believe is that this person is totally boring. They don't know what to talk about, right? And so think about the power of what this slide means. And like I said, this is a whole different workshop altogether. I want to just make sure that I get these across. Matt, I think we should go to Q&A time because I think some people may have some burning questions, but let me finish with these two things. And then we'll open up for Q&As. And I'm happy to stay past 5 if that's allowable by SASE. I've thrown a lot of things at you. I'm sure it has reminded you of a few things that you can work on, right? So here is my challenge to you. Practice, practice, practice. Because if you do not put into action any of the things that I've shared with you that you have identified are opportunity areas for you, if you don't put it into practice, then all you have done is just watch the video, learn some things, maybe be able to even talk about it, and you have gained the knowledge, but you have not gained any capability. And the second thing is get feedback. Because what I've done is a shotgun approach. I've thrown out a lot of things at you, but the most meaningful change that I have ever seen happen in people is when I'm coaching them. When there's coaching relationships that occur and somebody that they trust that is good in observation points out something that they should improve in, that's when it becomes meaningful to you. That's when it's relevant to you. And so I invite you to identify someone in your team, someone who's on calls with you quite a bit, to always be the one giving you feedback. Hopefully they'll feel the same way and they can reciprocate and ask you for feedback. So when both of you come together, you have constructive advice to offer each other as options. Consider them as options. Take it or leave it. But at least you know how you're coming across. Too strong, uninteresting, forgotten virtual presence. Matt, I've eaten up into 5 minutes of our Q&A time, but we still have time, right? Over to you,
Yeah,
Matt.
absolutely. Thank you very much, Fabian. Definitely appreciate it. So, ladies and gentlemen, as Fabian mentioned, at this time, we'd love to transition into any questions and answers. So, we'd like to invite you to put any questions that you may have in the chat box. So, currently, we haven't received any throughout, but I'm sure they're going to be coming through here pretty quick. And so, the first question is, how will the link to the recording be communicated so I can provide this guidance to my team? Roland, I'm actually going to ask you to answer that question. Once we have it completed, we're going to upload it on YouTube. But Roland, are we going to be able to broadcast that once it's on YouTube?
That's correct. Yes. Once it's on YouTube, we'll have links available. We have a playlist, and you'll be able to pick out this webinar and specifically link to it and even embed it onto your own team's website if that's what you have.
All right.
Yeah, perfect.
Any questions? Any other questions? Throw them at us.
Okay, Fabian, we did have one come in that said, how current should your profile photo be?
Ah, yes. Did you notice I had more hair in the photo that Matt had put up there? I think every 5 years would be good. But here's probably better guidance, actually. If your current look looks very different from the photo that you're putting on your profile, that is an indication that it's time to change. It doesn't have to be about the amount of hair. It could also be other facial features by which you're recognized. I mean, think about, why would you put a profile on there? So that you're recognizable. So get it as close to the reality of the current time.
Awesome. Thank you, Fabian. Next question is, what is an example of updating and changing your profile once monthly on LinkedIn, maybe posting an article with commentary?
I think updating one's profile, what I was driving at more is more so the information about yourself. Once every quarter, once every 3 months, I think you should go to your LinkedIn profile and read the summary of who you are professionally and the information that you have there. Sometimes I'll go into my LinkedIn profile and realize that, oh my gosh, I just joined the board at NAP and I forgot to update that, and it just still shows me as the national president of NAP. So it's things like this that you just want to make sure that you're staying current. Now, in terms of posting things, whether it's writing an article or posting a video that you made, for example, this video, I hope it comes out well. I'll probably post it on my LinkedIn that, hey, watch the video about this. It's part of my branding, right? I'm not going to post it if I didn't do well, right? I don't think you necessarily have to write anything or publish anything, but I think you want to stay current in terms of posting something once a week or so. And I would even say, even in your Facebook, if you have a Facebook page and people are looking at it, most likely, you probably know that. If you have a lot of friends, they're probably looking at it. Stay somewhat active on that. And you can always share. You can share an announcement by SASE. You can share an interesting article that you read that might be germane to your profession or even your interests or even your hobbies. But share something just so that people, because what you share also becomes part of your brand. And so if you're not sharing anything, it's just like being on a call and not saying anything. People just don't remember you. And so part of just maintaining that profile are all the things that I just mentioned. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, thank you. So the next question is, how relevant is the generation gap? Are older folks given more slack on their digital presence?
I'm older, folks. I'm in my mid-50s, and I don't know. You know what? Slack is relative, right? And it's hard to predict how somebody is going to consume information. I'll tell you that I have spoken to enough recruiters. I've done enough training workshops for recruiting teams, and they Google search people, even though they're not supposed to. All right? They're not supposed to be influenced by pictures of you, but they do. And they are influenced by it. So if you have a public Facebook page, recruiters and hiring managers will actually take a peek and go, oh, this Matt Diaz guy, hey, what's he doing? Okay, he's emceeing an event. Okay, looks like he stays professionally involved. Yeah, all of those are snapshots that somehow or another get parked in that little quiet brain of people. And when your resume comes across, all of a sudden, oh yeah, that Matt Diaz. Oh, I remember that YouTube. Oh, I tell you what, folks. So regardless of age, your digital presence, your virtual presence is going to impact your brand. And you never know when somebody turns to you for something. Now, obviously, for me, I got to make sure I'm at my best on LinkedIn, because potentially that could be a client. In fact, somebody from Paycom that was in a fidelity investment internship workshop that I did almost 10 years ago, she contacted me on LinkedIn and saying that that her organization, she's now working there, she's no longer at Fidelity, and they're looking for diversity trainers. And so I gave her my email, and I've just sent her my bio. So you never know, right? So if you never know, then why would you risk it? Manage your brand online.
Thank you, Fabian. And just a quick note, as you can see, we're running up against the hour, and as Fabian has graciously mentioned, he's willing to go into overdrive, and now that we got some questions coming in. So
overdrive and overtime.
Yeah, if you need to drop off, we totally understand, but we're going to keep going. And so, Fabian, the next question, and probably we'll be having you elaborate a little bit more on what you were just saying. When talking about internet presence, how do you separate and manage your professional presence, such as LinkedIn profile, versus your social presence, like Facebook, or even a combination of both, like your personal website?
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, I manage them very intentionally, my friends, very intentionally. On my Facebook page, and Facebook is probably the only social site that I, in fact, I think is the only one that I have a profile on. I do not post anything that's going to compromise my brand. I will certainly post more personal things, like maybe flowers in the garden, trips that I made. Many of my friends actually figure out where the heck I am at any moment in time. Sometimes my wife does too. People ask her, where is he? She's like, I don't know, look at his Facebook profile. Oh, he's in Dallas. Okay. So I do that on my social platforms, and then on my LinkedIn, I post less, but what I post on my LinkedIn very much is professional type stuff. Usually I'm responding to people and noticing people that I've worked with, and I might say, oh, Heather, congratulations on that new assignment, or Michael, congratulations on your retirement. Things of that nature. That's how I stay active there. But I think anytime that you find yourself putting something out there in the digital world, decide for yourself how that's going to impact and influence your brand.
Thank you. The next question is, do you have any recommendations for a Zoom profile picture? So when the camera's off, the name versus the photo, or is it even necessary?
I think it's very important that when you're on Zoom or any kind of platform where you enter the name, Microsoft Teams requires you to enter it. Zoom, it just stays with whatever you entered the first time, that stays with you. Always notice in your own frame what it's showing, and make sure it's your full name. Sometimes I like to put my full name and then parentheses, ATL. People like to know where you're calling in from. That's always an interesting curiosity, right? Because people are noticing things around you, right? I'm sure as you're watching me talk, you're noticing all the stuff all around me, right? The whiteboard over here. Hey, it's all intentional stuff, right? I think just your name should be just fine. Just be whatever that you see in your little box, manage it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
The next question is, I'm going to skip the question and come back to the next one, because this one's pretty parallel, and feel free to be brutally honest, because this one is relative to me personally. Is it a good idea to join Zoom from our backyard?
I think it's fine. I've had enough calls from people where and interestingly enough, they're coming in clearly. Matt, I mentioned that to you before this recording started, that because you asked, right? Am I coming in clear? And your earbuds are very quality. So as long as there is no distraction, calling in from your backyard would be fine. I would not do that if the formality of whatever meeting that you're calling into is at a higher level. If it's a casual meeting among team members, one-on-one, yeah, I even seen some of my work partners call in from their backyard, and it doesn't come off. What's the word? Not inappropriate, but overly casual. All right. But if this is a serious meeting, you are presenting a budget or something like that, stay fully professional. Keep it inside the house, in a professional environment, not with the unkept bed in the background, not sitting in a sofa with the laptop on your lap. I can easily tell who's doing that. None of that stuff. Okay, just keep it professional. It's just like how we dress up and go to work. Hey, dress up and go on camera.
And if I could just add on, I was kind of sweating during the presentation because unbeknownst to me, the neighbors had landscaping going on. So there was mowing and trimmers. And so I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be coming back on screen here shortly. Y'all need to hurry up. So fortunately they did. Just wanted to add that in because didn't see that one coming.
Yeah.
Okay, next question is, what should you post in your LinkedIn profile if you have been laid off or are between jobs?
That's a good one. Don't call attention to it. Don't call attention to it. Remain accurate in your LinkedIn profile. And I have also seen some people make a posting that they're seeking an opportunity, and I think that's fine. I think in this day and time, especially with the current situation, people don't negatively judge someone when they are seeking another opportunity. People are much more forgiving, especially because of the COVID-19 pandemic situation. And so I think it's okay to have that gap and to be kind of openly overt about it, that you're transitioning.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. As of right now, we have 3 more questions. There may be more that come in, but as of right now, we have 3. And so what are some similarities and key differences between virtual presence and public speaking? Seems
Sure.
like there's some overlap between the two.
Yeah, in fact, that pie chart with the tone of voice and body language and facial expressions being the major way by which we are creating the impression on people. I use that all the time when I do my public speaking seminars, and so a lot of the techniques of coming across, being articulate, being choiceful in my words, even gestures. Look at me right now. I'm talking with you, and of course my gestures are probably ramped up about, I would say I'm ramping up about 30-40%. But in a meeting with a client, do I gesture? Yes, I do. And I even use the technique of sometimes when I want your attention, I go, hey, I really need your help here, man. I really need your help. Now, I use that a little bit, partly just kind of to provide some visual variety. And so that's how it's a little bit different with public speaking, right? I'm leveraging my little bit of space here in this virtual world, but still utilizing the voice inflection, the tone of voice, the pitch, the speed, my loudness. I'm not going to talk to you like this. If this is how I'm going to talk to you for the entire conversation, for the entire meeting, and I just use my soft voice, after a while, that's going to be a certain impression that will last with you that is really not very powerful, right? That's not the brand I want to project to you. And so all these are public speaking elements, but you can also virtualize it like how I'm doing today. So as you get comfortable being able to talk to a machine, which is what's happening right now, right? Once you get comfortable talking to a machine, then all of your public speaking, in-person talking capabilities now get to bear, except that you just do it sitting down. There's an overlap. What else have we got? Anything else?
Yep, we do. So how do you handle awkward situations, incidents during the Zoom call, like what you were mentioning earlier with the background? So for example, the internet drops or family members interrupting, etc. How would you handle that?
Well, just like this. I'm like, oh my goodness, oh, I'm so sorry. My baby is crying. I'm so sorry. So let me just go on mute and let me put her down. And you know, sometimes by calling attention to that, kind of makes it real, right? Makes it real. And I've seen people do that in a very polished way. It wasn't overly distracting. Their child was crying, and they said, "Excuse me, I'm going to step away for just a moment, but keep on going." And then they mute themselves, mute yourself, and then go attend to it. And sometimes they may even carry the child and said, "Let me finish that point, and then after I finish this point, I'm going to go. I'm going to go put her down, give her something to eat, and then I'll come back." And just spelling it out. Just spelling it out. Don't get all flustered and go, "Oh, I am so sorry. I am just so sorry this is happening." By drawing too much attention to it, now you have made me think that I should make a big deal out of this interruption. If you don't make a big deal about it, then nobody's going to care.
Awesome. So you might have already touched on this, but do you have any recommendations for keeping engagement in large group meetings? You know, for example, organizational meetings or multi-department project meetings?
Wow, there's a lot that you could do, and make sure there's not one person doing all the talking. Make sure that there are some strategies by which you're engaging the audience, whether it's a poll, whether it's a breakout room for discussion on a particular topic. Vary it up. If it's a long meeting, and I have done long meetings, the longest webinar I've done is 4 hours. I take a break at the top of every hour for 6 minutes. I have a slide, and I say, "Hey, we're at this point, come back at 6:16. All right? So taking breaks, finding ways to engage your audience in different ways. Sometimes I remember last week we did a 2-hour WebEx session where the breakout session was 30 minutes. And so we actually said, "Hey, we're going to leave the main session here. Go ahead and click this other link that was sent." Everybody was put in predetermined groups to talk about a particular part of the strategy, and off they went for 30 minutes. And then somebody was supposed to type notes, and the notes were supposed to be emailed to us. And then when we came back, we just put on screen some of the notes that were shared, and then we just did some commentary on it. So there are many different ways to vary it up. But here's the overall advice, because there are many ways, right? Just be thoughtful about it, right? I mean, nothing that I've shared is out of the ordinary ideas. And every day, people are coming up with more and more ideas to make the session not so difficult. Like that 4-hour session that I did last week. They said they were fully engaged. Why? Because I told them when the breaks were going to be. I made sure I delivered on that. I was reliable. We every hour had an activity and a discussion, and I used breakout rooms. So and they all told me that they said that they didn't know what they were getting into for 4 hours, and they said, "You know what? I actually enjoyed it because we had talk time, we had thinking time. There were times where you stopped us and said, 'Reflect on this question, write it down.'" You can vary things up in terms of asking people what to do, even in a very, very large group. But once again, technology is a big thing, Matt, because if you're using WebEx, does it sound like I have a problem with WebEx? If it is incapable, and it is not very capable of breaking into breakout rooms as easily as Zoom does, then you're severely disabled to deliver on an effective large group engagement. So selection of the technology is really, really critical.
Thank you. And so parallel to that, do you have any suggestions on how to handle less than ideal internet when you don't have the option to buy a better service because it's not available where you live?
Okay, go to Starbucks. Find one because there is no replacing the lack of internet capability. I mean, you can turn your video off, right? You can turn your video off and just go to voice, but now you are less effective. And think about the brand that you're going to leave, the image that you're going to, the impression you're going to leave with the rest of the team members. They're all calling on video, and you're the only one that doesn't have the video. Now, and all that. I mean, it leaves a certain impression, right? It's like, oh wow, okay, well, we don't get to see his face. The rest of us have to, and people, they will not say anything, but snapshot, right? Snapshot. The guy that doesn't go on video because he's too cheap to buy good internet service. That's the impression they're going to leave behind. They'll never tell you that. But Matt, you asked me to be honest. That is exactly what it is. So get better internet service or move.
All right. Looks like we've arrived to our final question. And if you'd like to go ahead and close that after this one, how would you position yourself in meetings among your peers if you are a young professional and have less experience? How can you build the confidence?
Oh, wow. This is a whole nother seminar that SASE is working on to deliver at the virtual conference. Wow. There's so much I want to say, Matt. And many of you on this call, you probably already have some answers floating in your head, right? Not saying something, not contributing to the conversation is problematic for you. If you are in the call, regardless of age, if you are in the team and you are on the call, you are expected to contribute. You're there for a reason. Know the reason well, and make sure that you have the capabilities to deliver on that reason. I have worked with many scientists, researchers, and engineers. For those of you that know me very well, I've done a lot of work with a lot of major companies, one of the biggest ones that supports SASE. And I've done retreats where this becomes a big topic of conversation. I'm too new. Well, hey, if you are a researcher, you are a lab tech, and you're called into the meeting, there's a reason for it. It's because you are the one that did the tests. That makes you the closest to the outcomes of the test. So be ready. It shouldn't be a surprise that people are going to ask you about the results of the test, but do more. And that is not only just report on the results of the test, but also offer your opinion about what additional tests should be done. Have a point of view. Have a point of view so that people don't just see you as the person that runs the experiment, but they see you as a bright, thinking individual, regardless of age, that has good knowledge and perspectives to offer. Because not saying something, not injecting yourself into the conversation when you are expected to do so, that is not an option. You have got to be part of that conversation.
Awesome. Thank you. That was our final question. So any closing thoughts before I go into my closing housekeeping notes?
No, I just appreciate the folks at SASE, Matt, Roland in the background there, Parag, who asked me to do this. And to each and every one of you that have called in on this late hour of the workday, and for those of you that have chosen to watch this video all the way until this point, thank you so very much. Over to you, Matt.
Awesome. Thank you again, Fabian. We want to thank you again for donating your time and your wisdom with our SASE community. And so really appreciate you being here today. And so again, as I mentioned, I just have a couple notes before everybody leaves. We have one last poll. Please let us know what you thought of this webinar. So Roland, if you can go ahead and cue that final poll, we would greatly appreciate the feedback. You know, one of the tasks that Fabian touched on today. So if you can please go ahead and tell us what you feel on a scale of 1 to 10. And as you're doing that, one of the things I always say is, you know, if you took some notes, if you got some good nuggets out of this presentation, what are you going to do to put them into action right now? You know, I think probably the easiest thing that every one of us can do is let's go update our LinkedIn profile and make sure we're posting. I think that's probably a very low-hanging fruit. But what can you do specifically to utilize this information here today? And so looks like we are getting the best result, or getting the results coming in right now. 10 is best. Thank you for that question. And it looks very promising. So Roland, if you want to go ahead and share those results once you've done that. As you can see, here's our web address as well too. For more information on how to find our archives as well as the schedule of upcoming webinars, please go to this website. And again, more webinars, more resources, as well as our schedule. So looks like we still have results coming in. I'm going to go to the next slide. Our next webinar, we're really excited. Make sure to mark your calendars for Tuesday, July 28th, same time, 4 p.m. Eastern. Dennis Hirotsu, our SASE Executive Advisor and retired Vice President of R&D from Procter & Gamble, will share his research into unique challenges for APIs to rise to leadership positions in U.S. companies. In addition, he'll be sharing he'll share learnings on how API executives have overcome this based on interviews as well as personal experience. So again, another great webinar that we are excited to present for you. Let's see here. And lastly, we want to invite you to join SASE if you're not already. Become a part of the SASE family. Normally, we meet in person. We're a virtual organization, and every year we meet in person at our national conference. And so that's always limited to travel and the expenses associated with it. This year, we're excited to announce that you have the opportunity to join our national conference from the comforts of your home, as well as the career fair, both professional tracks and collegiate tracks within the national conference. This is all going to be online, so be sure to mark your calendars here as well too. And we're going to be releasing daily schedules here in the near future as well too. And finally, for any more information on SASE, you know where to find us. Here is our website. Here is our social media locations. But again, at the end of the day, we just want to thank each and every one of you for joining us here today. We honor the fact that you took the time out to be here with us, but especially to invest in yourself and your virtual presence. So Fabian, thank you again for your time, and we're going to go ahead and end the recording. And thank you everybody for joining.